problem with jewelry is everybody says that they're a jeweler and doesn't know jack about jewelry. If you're making beads, you know, if you buy beads and you're stringing them, technically you could call yourself a jeweler because technically you're making jewelry because it's body adornment. But you don't need to know, like, there are lots of jewelers that if you go to a craft show and they're a jeweler and they don't know how to solder because nothing is soldered, technically they're not a jeweler. They're an assembler. Yeah. Right?
I get it.
Then again, it's like a whole big blown out arena that's like...
It's time for another episode of Charbroiled Chats. Let's listen in.
They're so interesting. I had no idea that jewelry making was so, I mean, who knew? Like all the tools and the time and all of that. So why don't you say what you do? Because we haven't said that yet. People are like, what does he do?
So my name is Mark Farrell, and on the internet I go by Mark Farrell the Jeweler. I own Buffalo Craft, and I also am launching Elegant World, and I am a custom jeweler and a jewelry designer. Well, I've been a jeweler for 15 years. I've been a professional jeweler for the last 11 years. I make custom jewelry by hand for individual customers. No two pieces are the same, and we can pretty much make anything you could possibly think of. You know, so many people think jewelry art is like TVs, right? You go to the store and you pick the size box that you want, you know. And for a lot of companies that's true. But you know, for an artisan handcrafting jeweler like myself, hand fabricating and engraving, we do all of our own casting, hand engraving, stone setting, everything, and there's a big jewelry resurgence, jewelry art. So you're kind of this Renaissance person like myself. And then there's also people that have taken a step further and they actually cut their own gemstones and then make the jewelry around it as well.
Wow.
What's behind that, do you think? The resurgence and the interest in it?
Especially now with the internet and Instagram and stuff like that. And then after COVID, you know, doing the things that make you happy or finding ways to monetize your hobbies to not work anymore is a big driving force for a lot of millennials and a lot of
so are you saying the resurgence is in the number of people who are doing it now? Like maybe the market has always been there, but there hasn't been people to satisfy?
No.
In a way, or no?
The internet has changed, specifically Instagram has changed the way jewelry and art in general is sold, made, and brought to people's attention. So back when we first started, my wife and I started doing craft shows. We did 20 craft shows a year for about 6 years professionally. And at the time, in 2008, you know, craft shows were the predominant way of not only accessing artists, but also getting your art out. Instagram had just started, hadn't really caught on. Facebook wasn't what it was. Amazon was doing well, but like they hadn't really made the link with like the Alexa platform yet. Once Instagram really started going, and it became a gallery. So now you could not only see somebody's work, but then you could watch them work when they started letting you put up videos and other stuff like that. You could see their process, which you couldn't do at a craft show. You could do it from your home. It bought into that whole Amazon, you know, one-click buy stuff before even you could buy anything. And then they had like messaging, so you could reach out to that person, right? And you could DM them and you could interact with them. And along the way, what happened was it changed a ton of industries. It brought a lot of industries to the internet that didn't have another way of doing it, because as a jeweler, like I was like, no one's going to buy an engagement ring on a website, you know, because I'm like, who buys a car on eBay? Lots of people buy. I mean, to be fair, like I didn't, I never have, right? But lots of people have. I mean, they buy houses and people buy sight unseen shit all the time. Right. So it became a little bit different, and then it was like people got these big gatherings, these big followers, you know, followerships and everything else like that, and really started progressing this, and then it was like eyeballs on these certain people that had been doing the same thing. But this gave them a bigger market, way bigger than they ever thought possible. You know, it's like you're living in New York. That's still a huge market. But now You don't need to go to a gallery. You don't need to do anything. You can sell something to somebody in California and take all the profit and not have to give half of it away, right? And so it completely changed the way art was being made and sold. And jewelry was one of the biggest things because jewelry is so fashion forward, and that was one of the first groups of pictures that came out were like fashion bloggers.
Right, it's true.
And it jumped off each other really well.
Were you guys in a jewelry program?
Kate was.
Okay.
We both went to Buffalo State College. I went for art ed. She went for she originally started for business, and then she went for jewelry design.
Okay.
And I went and I ended up going for 5 years. And
didn't you go to one of the famous like craft schools or jewelry making schools like after you?
Yeah, I did. So I went there. So I wanted to be the ceramics. I never wanted to be an art teacher. I did. I wanted to be an art teacher, teach people how to think, not to make art. But I wanted to change my major. So I took a whole bunch of design studios, and you would take multiple design classes. So if you were a ceramics major, it's a design major. So you had to take other design classes. Jewelry was one of them. All of my friends in the junior studio in ceramics were all taking jewelry one semester. So I took it with them. I never showed up. I got an A. And then I went to metalsmithing, and I just got to beat on stuff with hammers. I took enameling. I wrote 2 grants for metals, and I snuck into the jewelry studio for about 3 semesters. And then afterwards, I snuck into the studio as well. And my wife and I met through a mutual friend on a blind date who was also a jeweler. But Kate did go through the entire jewelry design program. After that, I went to New Approach School for Jewelers.
Right.
And it's owned by Blaine Lewis. And yeah, it's one of the top jewelry school in the country.
I worked at RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, for a time, and I did the publicity for the School of Fine and Applied Art. So that's where I, met people who were actual like jewelry artists. But no one was doing anything like what you're doing that I see. It was much more.
They don't teach you any of that.
Yeah, oh, really?
Yeah, so it's garbage.
Why don't they teach you any of that?
Because it's college.
Oh, okay.
Don't go to college.
Yeah.
Which is not real.
Don't go to college.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion anyways. Like, my kids don't want to go to college. They don't have to go to college.
Right.
Like, if they want to go to a trade school or do something different. Like, I went to college for 5 years. Nothing that I learned there in jewelry am I using now. And I basically have made all of my money as an adult off of a 3-month trade school.
Yeah.
See, I think that's good advice. I hear that more and more. College is a waste of time.
For certain things it is. I mean, I was just talking to someone else the other day. Who was it? And we were talking about like artists of various kinds, and they were like, yeah, you don't have to go to school. I'm like, yeah, I think that's true. You don't.
And it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now don't get me wrong. I'm not saying college is bad. As an experience, it's great. As an education base, it falls flat. It's just flat garbage.
It didn't lead you anywhere, is what you're saying.
I mean, no, not for like what it should have done.
Yeah.
It's like, because jewelry, it's like, it's weird. They say things like, well, it's a jewelry art program, right? They're like, well, you're going to get a jewelry design degree, but they don't teach you how to size a ring.
Mm-hmm.
They don't teach you how to set a faceted stone. So you can't make a ring and then somebody says this is great, but it's an 8. I need it to be a 9 or a 7. You have to make the new ring. You don't know how to size it. Or if somebody says, man, I love this ring, but I want it to be do you do engagement rings? They don't know how to set a faceted stone at all. They don't know how to do a channel setting. They don't know how to do any of these things. They never work with gold. They never learn engraving, but they learn how to chase and represent, which nobody uses unless it's like uber art jewelry. Like I use it, but I have an art line that I'm launching.
Yeah.
Like it's not, but I'm also making one-off pieces. So, I mean, it's different. Like you need both ends of it. Like you need the artistic view, right? And at the end of the day, the jewelry design programs in all colleges are art-based. It's basically, it could be anything. It could be, ceramics or painting or jewelry or wood.
It's not the skill of how to get it done. That's interesting. Well, so I was going to ask you, what are the 3 basic, maybe there's more than that, but what are like the 3 basic things you have to know in terms of like skills to be, to do what you do? Like if you knew nothing else, what would be the 3 things? And it sounds like you probably didn't learn them in school.
when you're looking at the technical end, right? Because I'm way past the technical end. Like the stuff that I do, that Renaissance jeweler thing, that is not everybody that's going to this school.
Yeah.
So what do you need to know to get a job in a jewelry store?
Sure.
You need to know how to size a ring. You need to know how to set a center stone, a round stone. And you need to be efficient. That's pretty much it. If you could do those two things, that's 90% of what they do. And soldering, but that's why I said size a ring, because there's a lot of steps in sizing a ring. And if you can size a ring, you can do a chain repair. You can do other stuff because you have to cut it, file it, sand it, clean it up, solder it.
How do you set a stone?
How do you set a stone?
It's a little super glue and then
Pressure.
Actually, here's the thing, right? That's a good question because my sister, she has a little experience making jewelry, right? So she had made me a ring and I wanted a new stone because the one she had put in it scratched really easily, right? So I got this really pretty citrine and I asked her to put it in and it came back to me. It was like all crooked. I'm like, I can't wear this. So how do you set a stone?
Well, there are lots of different ways to set stones. The one that most people are most familiar with would be a prong setting, or like, you know, a traditional Tiffany head setting.
Yeah.
That's typically apexes.
And is the setting usually cast? Has that been cast?
Yeah, either cast or fabricated. It depends on what you're working on. Yeah. Most of the ones that most people are going to be buying are cast, yes.
and it's held in there how?
Pressure.
Just pressure, not
That's it.
there. I thought super glue or something. There'd be some kind
In
of.
fact, if you use super glue, everybody will know. It ruins the stone. It ruins the illusion of the stone. When you cut a stone, the thing that makes a stone sparkle is mirrors. It's called critical angle. The crystals grow at a certain angle, and when you cut them at a certain angle, they reflect light. That's why diamonds are so bright. They're like a headlight. They're cut for brilliance.
Right.
You're not actually seeing any of that, but as soon as that gets wet, or you destroy what the mirror is, you lose all the effect. So if you glue it in, now you're changing the shape of the stone, and you've erased all the mirrors, and you've put them somewhere else, and it just looks like a turd.
Wow. See, I always assumed those prongs were for looks, that was something like traditional ancient jewelry making, but that in modern times, if the prongs came off, the thing would still be set
I get it.
in there.
The prongs are actually what are physically holding it in. It's like they're gripping it. And then in ancient times, they didn't use prongs. Prongs are actually, they would use bezels because they were easier. They would take a strip of metal. There's a razor blade, but they would take a strip of metal and then they'd bend it around and then they'd put the stone in and then they'd curve it over the top and catch it like a cab. And that was much easier. Now, prong settings are the exact same thing as a bezel, except for that a bezel is a non-stopping prong, whereas for a prong setting, you've removed everything but 4 pieces.
It seems like bezels have become a lot more popular also in the, past decade or two, right? I mean, I remember when I was younger, it didn't seem like there were a lot of bezels out there, but...
We're wrong, Grace.
I mean, like cabs, most people set a cab...
You're wrong.
Well,
I could see from Mark's expression that you're wrong.
No, it's not that you're wrong, it's different.
it's just that you're dumb.
There's fine jewelry, right? And then there's artisan jewelry, which is like craft show. So it's artisan jewelry, which is like craft show jewelry, right? And then there's fine jewelry, or commercial jewelry. And then there's like art jewelry, which is like kind of everything. That's more of like what I'm doing. And so it's just very different. But
when you were like 7 years old, did someone give you one of those tumblers that you put rocks in? Is that where it started?
No. My brother had one. I never wanted it. It took too long. I was too impatient. I don't want anything to do with the waiting part. I'm not a jeweler because I like waiting. I'm a jeweler because I like immediacy and I can smack shit with hammers and play with fire all day.
Well, you know why this really interests me? When I was a kid, I mean, from the time I was like 3 or 4 on, I would take, I don't know if you know what Brand Names was. Brand Names was this catalog. And you'd look at the catalog and you'd go into the Brand Name store and you'd order from the catalog, right? So anyway, They used to have pages of gemstone rings, right? And from the time I was 3 or 4 years old, I'd go in and I'd pretend I was putting on all the gemstone rings. And I love gemstone rings. I don't know why. I just love them. And so to hear about like how they're made, that's so interesting. Well, isn't it like if you just tap the wrong way or something, you could destroy the whole thing? Like we were at the Smithsonian. Well, the person who's cutting the gem.
No, because you don't actually cut it, you grind it.
You grind it.
Oh,
so it's not like a sculpture like Michelangelo tapping to take away the marble. You're actually...
No, that's marble and stuff. I mean, to like open up like geodes and stuff, you gotta smack them in opal and stuff. Yeah, but nah, like once you get the crystal, right?
Yeah.
Like you get the rough, you basically pick a design that will work with the size and shape, maximize the carat weight. But then you dop it up, and it's called a flat lap, and it's like a platter that spins slowly with sintered diamond grit on it. And then you have a mast, and you actually do a CAD for it. So you can make a design in a CAD program that's GemCAD.
Oh, yeah.
And then it actually tells you the dials to set it to, but then it's like you start with this glob, and you just push it onto a flat surface, and then like when it hits 0, there's a dial and you set it. So when it hits 0, you know you're in the right place, and then you advance it and you do the same thing. And after you hit 0 on all of them through all of your grits, you come up and it's done.
Because I always thought there was this moment where you could destroy the complete...
Yeah, that's what I thought too. So mind blown. Who knew?
I am realistically, in the US, part of maybe 3% of people that work the way that I do. I mean, I work under a 30-power microscope. My field of vision is 3 ridges of my pad of my finger. I can set 0.5 millimeter diamonds.
Wow.
75% of jewelers that are out there are still learning over the shoulder, which means I'm a jeweler, you want to learn, you're watching me, but you're watching with 5-power optivisors while I'm setting a diamond on the back of this pen, and that's a big diamond, but you're trying to see this cut as I'm cutting it. That's garbage. The school that I went to and the way that I do stuff like on my Instagram, man, I'm recording that stuff with like the Hubble telescope. I mean, some of those prongs and stuff like that I'm setting, most of those diamonds are 5 millimeters, 7, they're carat and a halves or under, 7, 8 millimeters and down.
Yep.
And some of that stuff, like if there's a whole bunch of them in a row, those are like 1 mil. They're tiny. And they're the size of your fucking screen. They're huge, but it's because I can magnify on it like crazy. If you can see it, it's amazing how little movement you actually need to affect something if you can see what you're doing and where you're moving.
So then when I go to Tiffany's, right? Not that I've ever bought anything there, but I've gone in and just gaped. And so they're lighting in a certain way, aren't they? I mean, is that how everything is so brilliant in there?
I mean, it is.
No?
It is, but it's not. I mean,
Yeah, Grace, you're wrong again.
I know. I keep.
I mean, maybe they do something special, but there's a lot of things that people don't know about, right? Like, okay, you're talking about going into Tiffany and you're looking at don't even say Tiffany, it doesn't matter. It could be anywhere, right?
Yeah.
They're not doing anything special. You go into anywhere and you look at, gold jewelry with diamonds, white gold jewelry with diamonds. The only thing that's ever going to not look top notch is your silver. And even that, most times, unless somebody's actually using silver, it's going to look top notch too, because the industry is lazy, like most industries. We don't want to do as much work. So we've found things that make it so we don't have to do as much work.
On a personal level, do you love being a jeweler? And when did that happen? When did you discover that?
I was working at Great Lakes Orthodontics, and I was massively depressed. I was coming home. I was crying every day. I was so depressed. But we were doing craft shows, and it was amazing. And we loved that. And I wanted to go get my MBA to help my business. And I talked to my uncle, who taught at UB, taught business at UB, was one of the masters, was in teaching doctorate courses and stuff for business. And I talked to him, and he's like, don't do that. He's like, it's not going to help you. You're not going to like, I'm super dyslexic. He's like, you're not going to like it. It's not going to help you. He's like, that's for people that want to go and work for like Johnson & Johnson, like big company stuff. He's like, you don't have that. You're going to waste your time. Don't do it. And my wife actually found the Bench Jewelry School. It was the closest one. It was in Virginia Beach at the time, and did that. And I was like, man, I'm going to go be a jeweler. Yeah, it was at that point. It was like, well, I definitely didn't want to be a dental tech, and I had been out of school for long enough that, my art teaching stuff, there were no jobs in 2008. When the economy dropped out, the first thing they cut was music, art, and sports.
Yeah.
I had nothing. Like, I filled out like 400 applications, and some of the applications, like North Carolina, were for the entire state.
Wow.
I filled out I never got one call.
Wow.
Not one. And so, and I was on the dean's list. Like, I did a whole bunch of stuff. I had great letters. I didn't know enough people in the industry. I didn't know enough people to have it make a difference, right? All my friends that knew people got jobs. And I didn't, and I hated what I was doing, right? I liked that I was using my hands and not having to sit behind a computer, but I hated what I was doing, and jewelry was something that I could do. I was sneaking into the studio. I was doing that. My wife, at the time, she had a jewelry studio. I started using her studio. We got married. We bought a house.
Was there a moment?
Was there a point that I said, I'm a jeweler? Yeah, I mean, when I was sitting at the dental lab fucking hating my life and using the exact same fucking tools, and I'm like, this sucks. I'm grinding plastic for fucking $10 an hour. Instead, I could be grinding metal for $10 an hour, but that was the thing. We talked about college. You can't get a job. My wife tried to get a job in a jewelry store after getting a fucking degree from Buff State in jewelry design, and couldn't get a job in a fucking jewelry store. So I knew I couldn't go and be a jeweler. They didn't teach you how to be a jeweler. They taught you how to make art and feel it, and it was all good.
Yeah.
It's not. It's science for anybody that's listening that thinks it is wishy-washy bullshit. It's science. Fucking science. And so...
Well, I mean, anyone who makes art of any kind, you know that... I mean, Wally and I are both writers, right? You know that you have to know, like, the technical part of it before you can do anything. Like, you can't just go in there and say, I'm going to be an abstract impressionist, not knowing how to
Well, you can. I'm just killing you today. I'm sorry.
I know.
You can do that, but the problem is it only lasts for so long. No. But it's, I mean,
well,
but you're right.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, like, I feel like you have to know, like, I think Picasso said, right? You have to know the rules before you can break them. Like, you have to be technically proficient before you can do exactly what you want, because that's what I believe, in most art.
But you shun the rules too. I mean, so for me, it's hard.
Well, I'm not saying you have to follow them later, but you have to know them, right?
I mean, maybe. But like you talked about Picasso, right? Again, that's old world European shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you couldn't just go be avant-garde because it wasn't a thing. Like, you had to study with a master, and like, you had to learn how to mix paint. Like, he didn't buy paint, he mixed paint.
Yeah.
You had to learn how to mix paint. You had to learn how to, like, the ratios and stuff like that, and stretch a canvas and all these other things, which now we have YouTube for, right?
Yeah.
So to say that you're not learning the rule, like,
I mean, maybe you're right.
It kind of is, only it's more like as you go. It's necessity, right? But back in the day, it was like you're doing this, you're working for a master, you have a job, and then you hit that point that every artist hits, and you're like, this sucks, I'm going to do my own thing. But that's the problem. That's when you start a business from a technician standpoint, which is the other stuff that I do. But it's like, okay, so then you start it from a technician standpoint, and then very quickly, the first 3 years are great, and then after that, you realize that you have a fucking business, and that you're not actually doing what you actually want to do. Instead, you're doing paperwork and talking on emails and telling everybody to go fuck off and everything else like that, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Right? The problem with jewelry is, to your point, everybody says that they're a jeweler and doesn't know jack about jewelry. If you're making beads, if you buy beads and you're stringing them, technically you could call yourself a jeweler, because technically you're making jewelry because it's body adornment, right? So, but you don't need to know, like, there are lots of jewelers that if you go to a craft show and they're a jeweler and they don't know how to solder because nothing is soldered, technically they're not a jeweler. It's all cold connects. They're assembling things. They're an assembler.
Yeah.
Right?
I get it.
Then again, it's like a whole big blown out arena that's like...
If I want to start making jewelry, can I go to Walmart and buy some a vise and a crowbar and a...
So yeah, you could. If you went to Harbor Freight, you could go and you could get a lot of basic tools. In fact, the dapping set that I still use and love, it's my favorite dapping set that I own, and I have like 6.
Dapping is that, right?
Yeah, it's like a block. It's a big metal, but it's got all these different size rounds on it. So you put metal in there, and then it has punches, and you put the right size punch in, and it's a sphere, half sphere. And you put a disc in there and you smack it and it goes bunk. But you can get one from Harbor Freight, and it's my favorite one.
Okay, I need that.
Don't you have to have some kind of aesthetic sense, though?
To be a jeweler or a jewelry artist. See, so we're talking about 2 different things.
I mean, that's what would be Wally's problem.
I mean,
he doesn't have any aesthetic sense.
But that's okay. If you wanted to be a jeweler, no aesthetic sense at all. Does a plumber have aesthetics? No. They fix something. A mechanic fix something.
Yeah, you're right. All you have to do is set a stone and size
Correct.
the ring.
And that's all it is. That's where it ends. That's trade work.
Okay.
That's like the stuff that you're doing at a traditional commercial jewelry store. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
Like, we sit down with our customers and we figure out what they want. 90% of what I'm actually doing in my day-to-day is I sit down with a customer that comes to me typically from
design,
typically from a jewelry store in Franklin. That is, if it's local, they've been in business for 40 years, and they only sell estate jewelry, so stuff from the 20s and 30s. You can find engagement rings like they're getting out of style, right? So they sell engagement rings hand over fist. You can never find the matching wedding band. So when somebody goes in there looking for something custom, like a wedding band to match their beautiful engagement ring that they got from the 20s, they hand them my card. So I'm actually doing a lot of, I call it New Age deco. And what that is basically I'm taking a 20s ring that was made in the 20s in the Art Deco style, and I asked the person, I need 3 things. Like, what 3 things on this ring do you like? Typically it's metal. Typically it's stone color or shape.
Do most people come to you with good visions, or do you have to really dig to get what you need to know?
Look, I don't care what I make you, right? I am a plumber sometimes. I don't care what I make you. It doesn't matter. The worst question is people are like, well, what do you think? Do you like it? Well, I designed it, but I don't have to wear it. Not everything I make I like. Not everything I make I am super jazzed about fabricating or creating. But that doesn't mean that I can't do it. So people come to me with ideas that they want to pay for. It doesn't really matter about good or bad. I mean, if it's really bad or if nothing's beneath me, but if I don't have time to do it or I'm not going to make any money on it because of the time that it's going to take versus their budget, I just don't take the job. Like, I'm a jeweler and I love being a jeweler, but at the end of the day, I hate using the term a creative, but it's like I'm a creator, right? And it's like I create things, whether it's perceived value, whether it's intrinsic value, whether it's money dollar value, right? Or whatever. It's like my job, like any entrepreneur's job, is to create value.
So I'm just curious, Walt and I have both worked for ourselves with clients, right? So what's the best part about working with clients and what's the worst part? Because I know that both of those things exist.
It's fun for me because every customer is different. Every piece is different. Best part about working with customers, solving their problems. That's what business is. And it's hard to solve a problem when it's complete want. Unless it's an obligatory purchase. If you cheat on your wife, I'll make you a great ring. But if you just want something, it's hard to solve a problem. That's why engagement rings are so great, because it is a problem. It's an obligatory purchase. It's an easy problem to solve.
Do you ever get to do your own ideas?
That is a little bit more tricky, because that's when you don't have a customer for it, or you don't have a customer base. Like when you do, the best part about commission work is somebody's willing to pay for it, and you do half down, half on delivery, so you both have skin in the game, right? And you've got working capital. You've actually got something going. Whereas when you make your own thing, you pay for it out of pocket unless you crowdfund it. So it's a different money vehicle, right? And jumping vehicles is really tough. That's what we're actually in the process of doing right now, is switching vehicles. We're moving from 100% custom individual customers, primarily selling engagement rings and wedding bands, which are all one-off purchases, which means that we always have to keep finding new customers. And after learning about marketing and all these other things, I was like, wow, that's really stupid. And so I wanted to make incidentals, so earrings, stacking rings, and pendants. So I made a 10-piece line. And I went to Thailand for 6
that's
weeks,
interesting.
2 weeks of a quarantine. I had to do a 2-week quarantine in Thailand, and then I was there for 4 weeks, and I got manufacturing for my line. So I brought them all 6s, and they sized them up and sized them down. So now I've got sizes from 4 to 9, and they've got molds for everything. They did all the earrings, all the pendants. So now I just place an order, and it comes to me landed, finished. I don't make it. I make the one piece and I slave over that piece. Every stacking ring is like 40 hours. Like today, all I did was detail a straight twig to take another mold of it so I can make better stock. But I already casted it in metal 2 times. So I'm already on the 2nd generation of the thing to actually make stock before I can make anything out of it. And I only work in gold. So all of my tests are all 14 karat gold. So how do you work on the things that you like to work? Well, the good thing is that when you do commissions, you sell the things that you want to work, right? That's the biggest thing I tell people when they say, what do I want to, how do I do this? How do I become something? You manifest your own reality, right? Like that's something that we haven't talked about, but it's like, that's totally fucking true. Like the only reason that I'm a jeweler is because I didn't give it another way out. Like I'm not saying it's been easy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's easy now. So, Walt, to answer your question, I'm launching a company. It's called Elegant World. It's all nature-inspired jewelry. We just had a huge shoot this last weekend. My CMO flew in from California. We flew in models. We did a whole huge, 2 days of a model shoot with product and like lifestyle shots, everything like that. She did a whole docu-series with me all last week, and she's coming this week to finish up all the technical stuff for our mailings and our social and our YouTube channel, to finish up our website, but it's a different company. Like it's not me sitting behind a bench making jewelry. It's not Buffalo Craft Company. And I bought a building here in Tennessee. I moved out of the school, bought a building to start a manufacturing company. Bought all this stuff to do it, and COVID hit, and it was like that money train stopped. Walt, that money train stopped. And it's like, what now? Like now I bought all this shit to make all this stuff, but I can't make it because I gotta do anything that's coming through the door to do whatever. So I had a lot of time. So that was the first time right when COVID hit, hit in March, which was annoying because I had taken the first 3 months of that year of 2020 to build the beginning part of the line, and I built it, and then everything fucking stopped.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like when I was turning people down, I just closed my doors. I was like, nope, we're not doing anything. I'd saved up money. I was taking the time. I built up that reserve to literally spend 3 months just making my art. But then I remade the line again in a week, and that's what we're selling now.
Who do you think who's like the ideal customer for your new line? Like what kind of person wants it? Sure. Or persona or whatever you're using.
yeah. So that's a great question.
I mean, from what I've seen on your site, I'm like, I would be the ideal person, but I'm just curious if you know in general.
Yeah. So for Elegant World, you mean for Buffalo Craft or Elegant World?
Well, either one.
Okay, so Elegant World actually has a customer base, right?
Okay.
And the reason it has a customer base is because it has a target market.
Yeah. Okay.
Being a custom jeweler, it's like I can't advertise any. What can I say? I can do anything that you want. You just have to come to me with an idea. And most people are like, I don't know. They buy what they see, literally.
Yeah.
Like, I like that. Let me buy that. We don't even have a stock, so that's tricky. But Elegant World, it's like more environmental. People that are like outdoorsy. People that want to bring nature inside, connect with nature. So we're going after all different groups of. We're starting with women. But it's all types of groups of things, all types of groups of women, right? So my photographer is also a flower farmer. She's young. She's also a hipster, so she also likes like thrift storing and stuff like that. But it's like we're going for that. People that are in like van life stuff, like they're going and they're traveling around, and it's more about the experiences. And like so. More millennial, it's more like dainty, but with a message. We do good things. We have initiatives, and we're working on becoming 100% sustainable. All of our packaging is compostable. We're like all of these different things, right? And it's because I love camping and hiking and being outside, and so it's like that's why it's nature, right? It's because I I'm always outside. I'm always doing something. Like I don't, so there's that. And then
I would think it's also people who don't want to see what they're wearing on everyone else, that they walk by, right? I mean, it's...
Well, so for Elegant World, I mean, it's a brand. That is
Yeah.
Tiffany. Like, it's made in mass, right?
Right.
And so it is, I mean, still, even if we sold 1 million pieces, right, that's still only 1 million pieces sold. Like, it's not that many compared to per capita.
Right.
And so the thing that's really interesting is that it's not like anything else that's out there, right? If you look up nature-inspired jewelry, there's lots of nature-inspired jewelry. The problem is that like the uphill battle that I've got is that we're not really nature-inspired. We're like pulled from nature. So we're gonna own this. We're gonna own nature-inspired because we have to, because that's what everybody knows. But really, like, some people will just take a twig and direct cast it, and it kind of looks like a twig, or they'll take like a piece of wax and they'll pinch out a leaf and they'll add a berry and they'll rake it with some wire, and it looks nature-ish. We start with nature, and then I'm using 11 years of high-end technical jewelry tool knowledge and teaching to actually replicate natural textures and actually make nature. So it's different. Like ours, we want it to look like you went walking in the woods and you looked down and there was a gold twig, leaf, and fungus, and you pick it up and it's a fucking brooch.
Yeah, right.
Like, but it's real.
Yeah.
It's not kinda, sorta.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
In fact, we had to say that they're hyper realistic because people always ask us, they're like, oh, so this is made from a twig. And I'm like, well, yeah. And they're like, is it still in there? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, how do you do it? Did you paint it? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, but what is it? I'm like, it's gold. And they're like, all of it? I'm like, yeah. How'd you do that? Magic.
Where do our listener find you?
ElegantWorld.com. Buffalo Craft, you could type in pretty much anything you wanted for Buffalo Craft. You can go to Buffalo Craft, you can go to Buffalo Craft Company, you can go to, we've had it for a while. But yeah, I mean, the best one is Buffalo Craft Company.
And then your podcast?
So I actually took a hiatus from my podcast, and it's mainly for jewelers and artists. It says it's under design, but it's really mindset. It's more about achieving your goals. And that is the Jeweler's Philosophy. And you can listen to that on anywhere that you're listening to this, Spotify, iTunes, anything else.
There's a back catalog.
There's 124 episodes.
Wow.
And is that mostly about making jewelry, or is it the business of making jewelry?
It started as the business of being an artist, turning your art into a business, which is, it's really hard because people don't understand. Like I knew when I got into this, I wasn't a business person. Like I had a business because I had to make sales, but I was an artist. And then in the last 3 years, I went deep into business. So the podcast, again, it started as helping artists and jewelers with very common business problems.
Have you ever spent a lot of time on something and then the person was like, I hate it? I mean, like, what would you do in a situation like that? That's got to be really hard because then you've got like a tangible thing that I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't happen a lot.
I'm sure.
I do a sketch, and then I give it to my CAD guy, and he makes a model, and it's a 3D picture.
3D, right.
And I send it to my customer, and I say, this is what we designed. And they say, I love this, but I want to tweak this. And I go back to him, and I'm like, okay, tweak this.
Right.
And then I print it, and then I do all the hand finishing. I do all the hand stone setting. I do all the hand layout. I do all the hand everything, right? Sculpting, everything else like that. It's like big block shapes, essentially. Then that's when I finesse it, and it turns into the work that I make. And most people, they know, it's like I'm their last resort. And when they come in, I spend time with them. I mean, we've been talking for almost 2 hours. That's not uncommon for me. But when they go, like they have, we've been bouncing around different topics. Like we're talking about one thing, and it's their ring. Like they leave and they know what they're getting, and then 10 days later, I show them what they're getting. So that's alleviated a lot of it. There are some people that like I fire customers a lot.
Really?
Like they can't make up their yeah. They can't make up their mind.
How do you do that? What do you say?
I'm not going to make your project. Here's your money back.
And how do they react?
They're not happy.
I used to have a client that would get a draft of something. He'd say, I'm going to go show this to Mrs. Hamill. It's like, why are you showing it to Mrs. Hamill?
No, don't. Don't show it to anybody. Like, you make a decision.
Yeah.
You wear it. You have to like it. I have to make it. You know, I think it was like the first gold piece that I made, which was my wife's engagement ring, and I borrowed $1,000 from my brother, and I bought a 1/3 of a carat diamond, and I bought the stock that I needed for her engagement ring, and I held it in my hand, and I thought to myself, this is already expensive. And then it kind of extrapolated in the sense that, like, my medium, right? Like, it's cool. Like, the reason I liked ceramics was you got to make dirt more valuable. Right? You go to a river and you can pick up clay and you can make a pot out of it and you can sell it for a couple $100. Dirt, right? That's pretty cool. Or you can take gold and you can make something out of it and you can sell it for thousands of dollars and you're making money more valuable. That's the coolest fucking thing on the face of the planet. I get to take money, commonly traded commodities, gold, platinum, and diamonds that have an actual market value for investment purposes. I get to do my art with them and make money more valuable. There's no other way that you can make a dollar bill more valuable.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
There's no other money source that you can make more valuable.
That was, I've never heard anyone put it that way. I think that's very interesting. Is that the button, Walt?
You know, if you're looking for custom jewelry, go to buffalocraftcompany.com and fill out a contact form. That's how we keep track of all of our custom work and correspondence and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
We're always looking for new customers. And also look at our Instagram. It's at Buffalo Craft Co.
Yeah, I can't wait to check that out.
And then for Elegant World, which is the nature-inspired
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
jewelry line that is launching first week of September, that is elegantworld.com.
Yeah, I think that's the button.
And you can find us on all of the channels, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube.
You have no idea.
And it's Elegant World Official.
That is a button right there.
No.
Another episode of Charbroiled Chats comes to a close. But rest assured, whatever you would like to talk about, we are listening. So go ahead, tweet us at CharbroilC or email us at charbroiledchats@gmail.com. Of course, we'd love it if you'd head over to iTunes or YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts and write a review of Charbroiled Chats. And please, subscribe, like, follow, comment, and most of all, tell all your friends about Charbroiled Chats. See you next time.